All right, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at the changes to the Separatist faction with the newest points update. Hit it, Ryan.
So we'll start with simple. Belbalab, no changes for any pilot. Across the board, easy peasy. Next, a lot more changes. Droid Tri-Fighter all went down to some degree. The I-5 Flak Arfok, I don't know. I'm going to pronounce it in a very sounding manner that people may take wrong, but that's what it looks like. Went down 3 points. Went from 41 to 38. DIST 81, the I4 Unique, went from 40 to 37, down 3. Fearsome Predator 38 to 36, down 2. DIS 347, Unique Single Try 38 to 36, down 2. Separatist Interceptor, the I3 Generic 37 to 35, down 2. And the Colicoid Interceptor 35 to 34, down to 1. Not wanting to, I assume, break the threshold of allowing 6 of them in one list. Any initial reactions that anyone wants to mention about the tries going down that a lot of people expected to happen?
I like it. I like the idea of flying two Aflax, two Predators, and the Initiative 4-1. All of them with their free interceptor booster. And
Nope. Interceptor booster is still a point.
no, I'm sorry, with their free independent calculates.
There you go. That's a big one.
Not
So
the
the entire
booster, yeah.
faction, we're gonna this does matter for the tries in some cases. People have been wanting to try and fly them outside of the swarm a bit in some flanking capacity. Independent calc has gone from 4 points to 0 points across the board for everyone. I still think network calculations in most cases is still better, but there are niche situations where independent calculations is going to be valuable for no additional cost.
Yeah, if you're trying to just fly them either by themselves or fly them as flankers, or again the Aflax, or the Aphrodites or whatever you call them, the Arfox, they're they at Initiative 5 they kind of want to do their own thing, so I think it makes sense for those that they want to do their own thing. But yeah, if you fly interceptor booster independent calculations on 2 of the Initiative 5s and Initiative 4 and 2 Initiative 3s, that still leaves you 10 points either for all of them to have fire control system, all of them to have Predator. So I mean, I think they're pretty decent. I don't know if I want to fly 5 of them, but I'm just saying like you could fit a lot of them, so that gives you it gives you toys. Especially, I like the collision detector on the I5s. So collision detector and what is it called? The Marge Sable, the one that you have to fly over obstacles.
Marge Sable closure, yeah.
Yeah, so I think they're really good Marge Sable closure pilots. Again, Initiative 5, just point them over a rock, fly them over it, give somebody a strain, and then you can go ahead and punish them at a reasonably low cost.
I think definitely DIS 347, who was already a standout pilot, for only 2 more points higher than the base generic, is an easy buy. Very easy. To spend 2 points to make it from I1 to I3, and having that target locking ability at the start of engagement synergizes really well with any list with Dark One probe droids or HMPs. Moving on to the big ones, the fire sprays. Jango Fett up a single point from 79 to 80. Zam up 8 points from 76 to 84. I don't think it's too much of a spoiler at this point since we've gone through all the potentially most expensive ships in the game. Boba Fett still holds the highest cost in the game in Scum at 85, even though he went down 1, and Zam is now the second highest at 84.
Something about that fire spray.
Is this quote enough?
You can still fit 2. You can still fit 2 fire sprays with toys. It's still
That Jango Zam is still a lot of leftover stuff.
That's 36 points.
We saw bids on these before quite high. So they just lose some toys. They have to go to 200 anyway. There's no more bid. So it'll still be a thing. And then Boba Fett stays the same. Separatist Racketeer goes down 1 point. Because I think the bounty hunters in Scum were oddly cheaper by 1 point. So I think they just aligned them with the bounty hunters in Scum. 62 for bounty hunters in Scum. Actually, I think they're still more expensive by 1 point. I think they'll eventually get down to 62 eventually. They're just making their way slowly. Now to the HMPs. Big thing to note at the start. Repulsor lift stabilizers are now 0 points. So they want you to take them. They're an identity of the ship. With that said, DGS 286, originally 42, went down to 39 points. So still got reduced, likely because it was never really worth it. Its ability is very greedy. It wants to take calculates from other friendly ships, which it can be a calculate bank. It's harder to kill, and you can have more likely that ships stay alive to have other things to network from it, but that's about it. Onderon Oppressor stays the same at 40, already had a pretty good ability. Separatist Predator went down 2 points from 36 to 38. Or sorry, went up 2 points. My bad. Up 2 points. So it net reduced by 1 is kind of what I meant to go after because the repulsor lift is now free, was 3. And now across the board, the rest of the HMPs, Geonosian Prototype, DGS 047, Factoid Drone, all up 3 to counteract the 0 cost repulsor lift stabilizers. So net 0 across the board for those because you're likely taking the stabilizers now because it's free. HMPs, Dion, I know you hate them. Do you like the fact that you just, I mean, they always took repulsive stabilizers before.
Right.
So does it matter that it's free now?
No, but I mean it's baked in. That's why those costs adjusted slightly. We're still gonna see it. We're still gonna see it.
We only saw ones that never get played get a slight reduction or stay the same.
Yep.
So, 8 Hyena bombers. Landing struts now 0 baked in cost. This is a trend you're going to see. DBS 32C though got no increase. That is the higher cost Hyena that allows you to coordinate at the start of engagement to friendly ships with a network calc or has calculate token or action or something pretty close to that. Very, very powerful ability, but high cost ship that doesn't have any munitions capability and can carry tactical relays. All other HMPs across the board, 404, Bombardment, Backdoor Prototype, Separatist Bomber, Techno Union, up by 1 to counteract the landing strut cost. So now it's baked in. You're taking it no matter what, basically. So I know there were some people who used to take some bombers. At least I used to build some without them, just to barely fit what I liked in the list. Now it's not a choice. I have to have that as part of my cost. And then we got the Nantex. Sunfuck down by 1. Okay, I guess. Brewercrat 0 change. Chairtech 0 change. This one's really confusing to me and kind of goes into my question of why generics, some are being punished again. This one's weird because the Petronaki Arena Ace and the Stalgaz and Hiveguard both went up, and I immediately was like, what happened to Ensnare? Did Ensnare go down a little bit? And no, Ensnare stayed the same if I'm correct, if I recall correctly. So the Petronaki Arena Ace going up by 2 and the Stalgaz and Hiveguard going up by 3 just for randomly again paying for the sins of the past, even though they rarely showed up in the last meta anyway. So that's really confusing to me. Is there anything I'm missing that you guys might be able to think of as to why they decide to hit the generic Nantex again?
Because we'll never forget the destruction they made on Galaxies 2020. That's why.
Whatever. They weren't being
This is the only
anyway.
generic. This is the only generic that I'm like, you know what? You could bump it back up even more. Put it even higher.
Feelings. All right. Gorgol did go down 1 though. So Gorgol and Sunfuck each got to go down 1. So if you're not even taking a generic anymore. You're taking Gorgol first anyway. If you're ever taking a single low one. And then we got the Sith infiltrators. Got a slight reduction from Darth Maul and the Dark Courier, each going down 1. Count Dooku at 0 change and 066 0 change. But that does mean we have crossed a threshold. We can fly 4 Sith infiltrator Dark Couriers now. If you want, are you gonna? No. You'll try it on TTS probably. No one's buying 4 of these. So
what I'm hearing is that I need to do a Paint Wars episode where we get 3 of these painted, and I take 1 of mine, and then I can fly 4 in person, and then immediately ship them out to everybody because it's probably a terrible list.
It does seem like a really good painting platform, honestly, if that's not already been a ship you've chosen. Potential spoiler alert in the future.
Not yet.
It's good canvas, it seems, for sure, for some good modifications. But yeah, slight decrease to Maul, slight decrease to the Courier. Vulture droids. Baked in struts, just like their kin, the Hyenas. Couple of differences, though, and a couple that I think is an interesting adjustment. DFS 081, literally never taken, never seen. It's the one that says you can have friendly ships at range 0 to 1, spend a calculate to turn a crit to a hit to minimize the crits. It actually went down by 3 from 26 to 23 and has the baked-in struts. So deservedly went down. Will it be used? I still don't know. Precise Hunter went up by 1 to counteract the struts. DFS 311, who I like to dub Butterbot, the you pass the calculates, has 0 change actually. So he has baked-in struts, stays at 23, and this, for me, is a big candidate. If you have one single Vulture in the list, this is where you staple independent calculate onto, because he can be a great support piece to pass off calculates and retain 1 for himself for his own, defensive usage. Just park it on a rock and say, pass a calculate to whoever needs it each turn. And that's it. Friendly little Butterbot. Separatist drone, the I3s, actually went down in cost from 22 to 21, which is now the same cost as the Trade Federation drone. This might be one of the first iterations we've seen a generic have Initiative 1 and the lower one be the same cost as the higher initiative. For me, I still think the I1s likely get used more. It's a meta call decision. There's rarely been ever a reason to go I3, because a lot of times the blocking was important to make sure you got all the actions you wanted, but there's a decision if you want to go I3. Marcel, Dion, this is, I think, one of the first iterations of this development, because we've seen named pilots be costing the same as a generic pilot, but we haven't seen 2 generics, different initiatives, cost the same.
I think this comes down to the fact there's a realization that the biggest thing with those Vultures is you want them to move first so you can guarantee the calculates, because what makes them strong is network calculations, right? That is their whole shindig, is that they work really well in groups. So there hasn't been motivation. There hasn't been a reason to fly Initiative 3. And I'll be completely honest, at 21 points, I still don't think you bring the Initiative 3. I don't, unless there is an actual reason to bring Initiative 3 ships.
Yep, or like a meta call, like I said.
Right.
There's a certain meta that's developed where it is actually to your benefit.
Right, but that's a strange meta, because then the question is like, why aren't you bringing other Initiative 3 ships? Why is there has to be something very specific where Initiative 3 and network calculations is what you need for that call, but maybe. And maybe isn't one of the Belba Labs Initiative 3 Wat Tambor?
Yes.
So for matching
it could
initiatives,
be a decision of if you don't think anything else is really being taken under you to block you, likely in when you're planning for an event in Swiss, you're like, okay, I can jump to I3 because maybe some of the surrounding ships around me are at I3 and I can have better movement control. And then the last Vulture, the Hayward prototype, just like the Trade Federation drone, went up 1 to counteract the struts. So into the upgrades, struts down 1, interceptor booster stayed at 1 point, so it is 0 change. Landing struts down, repulsor lift. So that's all the configurations we mentioned before. They're baking them in, making it easy. No problem. Count Dooku crew went up 4 points from 10 to 14. As much as I would said in the past that it's likely because of the fire spray chassis that he was used more, I'm not too against this increase because it is a powerful ability. We've seen it used. It's very effective. Just because one chassis can use it. Now, this obviously adds the 4 more points to the Zam Jango, but as we talked about earlier, Zam Jango still has plenty of points to fill. Marcel, do you think 4 is the right call up to 14 for Dooku?
No, I would probably want to see it at 16, 17 at least.
Think it one of the higher ones?
Yeah, it's still. I mean, when you think about it, makes. I mean, yeah, it just takes even debris. It makes debris. It turns debris into a proton bomb. I mean, it can do anything it wants to do with it, as long as it's within range. It's just a little too strong. So, yeah, I don't think that's enough. It's still a great value at 14.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I think it's still going to be taken on double fire sprays. I think there's definitely, as we talked about, there's still lists that can be built. We talked about Jango Fett crew and Scum and Zam crew and Scum before. Independent calculations we mentioned went down 4 points to 0, so now you can make that decision. Kraken went down 1, was 11, now 10. Might be able to fit something small in the list now, or might just barely fit something. And then the Scimitar title for the Infiltrators went down to 3, which is a difference of -1. Net total for the entire faction actually gained 7 points. I assume a lot of that mostly deals with the fact that the configurations have been equalized down to 0 and prices have been baked in. So that's probably not a really accurate number. Because
Zam is really the inflation that
Zam and
happened.
Dooku crew both,
Yeah.
and well, Zam. This
Zam
faction
twice.
technically got hit by both Zam increases for its total cost: the Zam crew increase and the Zam pilot increase. But you can't take them both at the same time. So again, that's a weird.
Yeah.
The faction probably had, basically overall, the faction had a net change of probably very low across the board, because you got to level out the Zam stuff, the Dooku stuff with the Tri stuff, the moderate adjustments with the upgrades being baked in, and then some stuff going down a little. So they said, Separatists, just kind of stay what you're doing.
Except for you, Zam. we're gonna try to hurt you. Oh, they'll try. We'll see if it ends up happening. All right, so that's been the breakdown of the changes for the Separatist faction in the September 2021 points change.